March gardening in our climate is basically what every gardening job you can think of, starting off with sowing some seeds, breaking out seedlings, planting those seedlings, planting actual plants, to thinking about soil nourishment, adding new compost, mulching, to maybe creating new garden areas, pruning, weeding. There'll be a lot of weeding, but March is a wonderful month for gardeners. And that's the thing, there will be that small window of opportunity to get that one step ahead of nature before April comes and the plants really start to take over. Today we're going to have a really exciting day ahead of us. As you see, the sun is shining. Now it's still a little bit chilly, but it's going to be that one day of really warm and sunny weather before a whole week of much colder weather arrives. So today we get to spend the whole day in the garden, and let's get some of these March gardening jobs ticked off our list and taken care of and make most of our perfect spring weather day. One of the very first places I'm going to start from is this planter here in the kitchen garden. That is my Oca and Mashua planter, and this was just a teepee for the sweet peas. I'm just going to clear away all the old foliage, which is absolutely perfect, especially if you would have kept it there for the sake of keeping the plants safe from the hard frosts, or just overall as a habitat for beneficial insects. But now, as we're not due any more of these real hard frosts, and bumblebees have definitely woken up already as well, I'm going to clear all this away. Now the teepee can come out of my way as well. I had a bit of bird netting on the planter here to keep as an insulation layer to protect the tubers that are right underneath the soil surface, to keep them safe. But I can take this away now as well. And I'm going to harvest some of the Oca and Mashua as well as we're here. And once all the old foliage is out of the way, it's so much easier to see a lot of slugs. Because obviously they were hiding under the foliage as well. But you really see the tubers popping up. And I'll harvest some of them. Wow. Oh, wow. Oh, I don't think I'm going to touch them. This looks like it's going to become a beautiful, massive tuber. Look at the size of it. Okay, it broke off. It's going to... Wow. Now, I think this is actual Mashua. If you're not familiar with Oca or Mashua, they're both from Andes, so they're from South America, and they're tuberous roots that you do eat. Now, flavor point of it is very different. So if Oca, or more known as the New Zealand yams, it's just only because it became more popular in New Zealand first. Look how many there. And it was more about the harvesting time, first of all, that interested me, because you harvest it now. So now it's March. I could have harvested last month as well. A lot of slugs. It's from oxalis family. So it does have oxalic acid in it, which means that it's going to taste quite lemony, quite sour, as the Mashua, which is this one. So they sort of look similar, but the shape is a bit different. That's another Mashua that popped up with a stem still attached to it. This is from, it's like an edible nasturtium, so it's really peppery. So if Oca is really lemony and crunchy, this is really peppery and crunchy. And if you cook them, this actually becomes more of an aniseedy flavor, as this will keep its lemony flavor. So this is now, yeah, this is all big Mashua. So this is going to grow into massive tubers, but I have not seen this before. So if Mashua will benefit from being able to climb on something, so I have a trellis here, then Oca really is just rambling away on the on this underneath the soil now. Cold definitely has affected this one. This has gone all brown and mushy. And there's a tuber as well. I can see that's gone rotten. But the beauty of both of them is that they're not affected by the same diseases, especially like the blight that we would get here a lot of. Now this is all Mashua. And you can eat them raw, you can eat them cooked, you can pickle them. There is a very distinctive difference in the, that is rotten, but there is a very distinctive difference in their flavors. So there's some cutworm type of a fella here. Where are you going? In there. That's a beautiful one. They're so pretty. I just visually think they're so pretty to look at. But yeah, it's like the Mashua is like a very peppery, like radish now. It's very similar. I'm going to leave the smaller tubers here. But yeah, the beautiful rhizomes running under the soil here. So these guys, I'm going to definitely plant them back and they can become nice new plants. And obviously I could see that they really were happy to grow in this area. This is all, what are you? Mashua. But even the foliage is just stunning. Obviously the leaf looks very like nasturtiums, and then I think in December I started to see the flowers, which were these kind of trumpet orange flowers. But yeah, then I had the sweet pea here, and I'm going to make this planter as their permanent planter. I'm happy out for them to stay here, because as you see, they do multiply quite easily. So I'm not sure I want them to be rambling in every area. And then with the Oca, because it is so prolific again, I think I have a couple of different varieties here. Maybe, did I have 3 or 4 different colors? But again, if I would leave 1 or 2 of them in here in the soil, they would just keep growing. Stones from the snow event. And I have plenty of small tubers in the fridge still that need to be planted, that have been chitting there since last year. To replant the Mashua, I found it was going to be easier just to dig like a trench. I added some fish blood and bone to the base compost layer, mixed all that in with actually some of the compost there, and then I just sort of lined up those massive roots and just covered it all up then with a good layer of the fresh compost. As you can see, there are a lot of singular Oca tubers left on the soil, and they are little just too small to harvest, but are perfect as the next year's seed. I actually bought out the tiny Oca tubers I had been keeping in my fridge. They've been hibernating there, and I added all of those into the planter as well. The same with a bit of fish blood and bone, fertilizer mixed with soil, and just a good thick layer of fresh compost on top of it. And I think that's nearly 4 inches of new soil, which wasn't bad because the planter itself, the soil levels had physically dropped inside that planter, so it was as good of a time as any to bring that soil level up again. I haven't come far from the Oca planter. I'm just here in front of my Nepeta border, I suppose you could call it. And this is a well-established border. And I want to just take a couple of big chunks out of it for propagation. And now is perfect time because I can see every bit of the fresh growth coming onto them. But perfect time to divide these kind of well-established plants. Now would be a perfect time to divide some of the perennial plants as well, especially these kind of clump-forming ones. Now, autumn tends to be a more typical time for dividing plants, and rightly so, because the soil is still warm and the plants have finished their sort of essential growing stages, so they're starting to actually settle down for the winter hibernation anyway. And then obviously throughout the winter no issues with watering, as when you divide in spring you really have to look after them that summer period, just to make sure that any new roots that are put on those young baby plants, they are never short of water. But this Nepeta now, absolutely thriving, ready to go, and it's a very vigorous. So I do want to divide it, and I've taken up quite a big chunk from here, and I'll take another big chunk from the end as well, and those I can divide even smaller and smaller and smaller. And I want to put this plant onto the field as well. And the reason I didn't want to divide this now in autumn is because this plant keeps growing and flowering pretty much up until the frosts, and then I leave all the old foliage on the plant until spring. So it would have been very hard for me to come here and start digging up a clump of it while it still had the branches on it. But the branches, I cut them back, was it a week ago, 2 weeks ago? 2 weeks ago, I suppose, or even 3 weeks ago. And so I really can see clearly now where the strongest of growth is, and these are the areas I'm taking out. And this is actually going to rejuvenate the plant as well in some of the areas, so absolutely perfect time. And there's nothing complicated about it. I'm just going to slice into the root ball and going to just hack out a piece of it. And then I'm going to just fill that hole with fresh compost and do nothing else about it. But even something as small as that, I could easily take that into 3 bigger chunks, let's say 1, 2, 3. There's so much material in that. Now I'm moving along, I'm coming to this border. And really this is just another area that needs all the old foliage being taken away. I'm not worried about any of the cold weather damaging it. I already actually a couple of weeks ago took away most of the foliage that was here. I have to take these ones into the greenhouse, see if we can propagate some sedums for ourselves, because there's a lot of little pups on these 2 branches. But especially now, once we have that fresh compost to spare, this can all just come out cleaned up. And get all this mulched. This is all an herbaceous border. It's absolutely stunning during the summer. It is so full of lush growth. And what it mainly really is there's a stilbees here. There is phlox, white coloured phlox here, a stilbee here. There's sedums that are beautiful late summer, early autumn. Sedum, geranium. I was thinking that I'll reduce this guy because it's really overpowering during the summer. There's another phlox, more stilbee lupins, and then there's creeping phlox and creeping carnation, and there's more stilbee. So it's very repetitive, the planting that's here, but it's also very easy on the eye. The lawnmower is on, so I better crack on. That's a cue for me. No more chat, no more talk, because I know it's going to be very loud on the microphone. I think it's time for a little rest break and a recap perhaps. My energy levels are fading a bit, but I'm just too stubborn to give in. Because to be honest about it, I haven't actually really moved on from the kitchen garden side. Well, I have been at the herbaceous border here, which is the in-between land of the kitchen garden and rose garden. But I don't think I'll get to the rose garden today, because I really do want to get into the cottage garden side. I want to have the Hellebores planted if I get nothing else done, because the sun is going down. No, there's still good, 3 hours of daylight left. But I am running on last reserves, because all this weeding, mulching, clearing away the old debris is, oh wow, buzzard so close. Let me see if I can get it. I don't think the camera was able to capture it. They move quite fast because they use the wind to maneuver around. They don't sort of flap their wings as your ordinary birds do. They do glide with the wind, and sometimes they could come very quickly closer to you, and then other times they're very quickly taken away. So it literally has moved from here to there within 20 seconds. But yeah, they're big birds. They are big birds. So all of the raised beds got mulched. I took down the netting in the kitchen garden also. I had just used it during the winter as a windbreak, and there's no need for it now anymore. I've really nicely opened up the space again. I also weeded the carrot bed. That planter has so many of the chickweed weeds in it, and they're so annoying as they multiply so quickly, and even the tiniest of plants can grow seed heads. So got that freshly mulched as well, so it's just looking so much tidier now. But yeah, all that weeding and mulching has taken more time than I was anticipating. But at the same time, there's a whole lot of marsh still ahead of us. There's more beds in the kitchen garden that I do need to mulch and do up, and I look forward to that as well. But once, yeah, I'll rest a little bit, and we'll see you in the cottage garden. Now in the cottage garden, the forsythia, I'm not sure if you see behind me there with the yellow flowers, that is flowering, and the largest of the hydrangeas here is also pushing out new foliage. Now I haven't pruned it yet, and I will not prune it until much later, as every spring I prune it. I think all the sort of cold weather has sort of passed. I prune it, and then cold winds come in April, and it just ends up burning all the leaves on the plants. So I'm going to hold tough on this pruning for a moment. And I was just focusing on the front half of these beds, so that circular area. There was a lot of hide and seek going on. I really just wanted to weed it first, get the old debris out of the way, as there are just so many plants that have not properly come out of the soil yet, and some of the tulip and daffodil leaves are smaller than others and just sort of hiding behind the plantings. Now obviously digging in this soil is very difficult. It's a solid clay and it's riddled with stones, so I've just added fresh compost into the holes that I dug for the hellebores, and the hellebores themselves were actually quite pot bound, so I did try to spread out the roots as much as possible, and then I just filled the overall area with more of the fresh compost. I had two varieties, 3 of each, so I put 3 of elemental to my right and 3 of the Anna's red to my left, and they do look very pretty here. Well, what an amazing day it has been. Not only has it been a very first of this warm spring-like weather days, but it's also one that we won't have for a while again. I think the temperatures today reached to like 16 degrees Celsius, so good progress has been made. And I'm thinking because next week is going to be really nice and dry, and the compost in those ton bags is dry also, I'll try perhaps, if I could even do like 5 wheelbarrows every evening after work and start filling those large metal raised beds. It probably won't make an interesting content for you anyway, so I can quietly get that soil moved. Together we can actually do something else in the garden. But rather than me just waiting around and leaving that soil moving aside until maybe it gets even wet and saturating gets wet, and then it would be twice the weight to move. So at the moment it will be nice and light and much easier to shovel it. So that's just a little bit of overthinking, but thank you so much for joining me today in the garden, and hopefully we'll see you next time.